open up on for sale. So for sale, sir. 2024, you gotta put it out. Keep putting it out.
Folks, welcome back to another episode of The Fallen Badge. Today's episode, the murder of Sergeant Hoyt Teasley and Assistant SAC David Wilhelm, Fulton County Sheriff's Department, Georgia, Department of Homeland Security, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Sergeant Teasley was 43 years old. He had 18 years with the Fulton County Sheriff's Department. Now he had a wife and 2 children. Now ASAC Wilhelm, he was 40 years old. He had 18 years with the United States government. Now he had a wife and he had a passel of brothers. Now most of the information I'm getting for this episode comes from the state of Georgia courts. It's March 11th, 2005, Fulton County Court House. They're in downtown Atlanta. Now it's somewhere around 8:45 a.m. Now a deputy, she's all of 5'1", and she's 51 years old. Now she's been assigned to escort a rape suspect, back and forth from the lockup downstairs up to the courtroom where his trial's going on. Now the suspect is 6'1" and about 220 or so, and he is stacked. He is a big, well put together fella, and they got one deputy escorting him. So now the suspect, he gets to the courthouse there by the prison bus. Now Deputy Hall, she takes him from the basement detention area to a holding cell there on the 8th floor. Now, I'm not really sure why Fulton County Sheriff's Department would let one deputy escort a man who's on trial for an incredibly violent felony. According to the resource material, she didn't ask for any help, and so now the deputy, she takes suspect up to the holding cell. He's not wearing belly chains or leg irons or anything. So in that holding cell, the suspect's going to change from his prison garb into his clothing he's going to wear in court, which is generally slacks and a dress shirt or maybe a jacket to go with it. Now, just a few days before this attack, this same suspect had been caught with door hinges hidden in his shoes. Sheriff's Department at the time figured he was going to use them as weapons when he tried to make an escape. Deputy Hall takes one cuff off, and that's when the suspect attacked the deputy, pushed her into another cell, and beat her severely. Now there is video surveillance camera recording what's going on in that detention area there, that holding cell. The video records her just getting beat near death. In fact, the initial hit that he delivers to the deputy, it took her off her feet. So now he comes out of the cell and he's got her gun belt, her radio. Now he gets her keys and he locks up that cell with Deputy Hall inside. So then the suspect, he changes into his street clothes. Now 4.5 minutes after the attack, he's leaving the holding cell area. Now he uses the deputy's keys and he opens up the lockbox. That's where he'd gotten her pistol from, because she had put the pistol in the lockbox before she was going to take the cuffs off the suspect. Now, according to the hospital, when they later treated Deputy Hall, she sustained significant brain damage, facial fractures, and a large laceration to her forehead. And she was critical for a while there in the hospital. Now, her injuries were so severe that the doctors at the hospital that was treating her thought she'd been shot in the face. Now, according to some resource material that I found, it claims that there's 2 deputies that are supposed to be in the courthouse control room, and they're supposed to monitor the cameras, obviously. Because why have a camera monitoring the holding cell on the 8th floor if nobody's going to be watching it. According to this resource material, one of the deputies was out getting breakfast, and the other one, who is EMT qualified, was allegedly out on an emergency call inside the jail somewhere, or inside the courthouse. So no one saw the attack, and as of yet, no one knows we've got an escape in progress. Suspect crosses over to the old courthouse by way of the Sky Bridge. Now he gets over there and he's able to get into the chambers of Superior Court Judge Roland Barnes. Now Judge Barnes is handling the rape case of the suspect. Now when he gets inside the chambers there, he's able to take two of the case managers and an attorney. He takes them hostage. He makes them all sit in the floor. He's got them at gunpoint. Now he's asking where Judge Barnes is. Now a sergeant with Fulton County Sheriff's Department, he enters the chambers and he's taken prisoner. The suspect told him, he says, "Don't do nothing, Sarge. I got nothing to lose." So now the suspect's got 4 prisoners. Now suspect forces Sergeant White to handcuff the case managers and the attorney together. Now Sergeant White's able to push the panic button, emergency button, distress button that they have hidden in all the judge's chambers in different locations. Now of course the suspect knows something must have happened because he can hear it going out over the radio that there's a panic alarm being sounded. The suspect gets on the radio and tries to disregard anyone coming up to the judge's chambers, and he uses Sergeant White's call number. Well, now of course that gets the deputies on the radio frequency, kind of gets them looking at each other because they're going, that ain't Sergeant White's voice on that radio. So finally the suspect, he handcuffs Sergeant White. Evidently Sergeant White had several pair of handcuffs. He handcuffed him and he's going to leave the chambers now, because from the chambers you can walk directly to the courtroom. And the doors he's going to go through is going to come out right behind where the judge sits, right behind his bench. Now, one of the case managers, after the suspect walks out of the office, she calls the control center, and nobody answers the phone. So now the suspect, he opens the door right behind the judge's bench. That's courtroom 8F. And the judge is on the bench. They're doing a little civil hearing. They're going to do that before the rape trial starts again. So now the suspect, he pulls out a pistol and he shoots Judge Barnes in the back of the head. Now people in the courtroom had seen the suspect step out from that door where they thought he was part of the staff because he had on a dress jacket. Now after he shoots the judge, executes him, he looks down at the prosecution table and he's looking for the prosecutor that's handling his rape case, because obviously the intent is, everyone believes, is that he's going to execute the prosecutor. She's not there because this is a civil case. She's not going to get there till a little while later when their court case is supposed to start. For whatever reason, he then decides he's going to shoot and kill the court reporter. And he shoots her execution style in the head. Now Sergeant White is able to get out of the bathroom where he's been secured. He's able to get on his radio and he puts out a call that there's an escape in progress and shots have been fired in courtroom 8F. Suspect then leaves the bench and he checks a side room that's connected to the courtroom. That's where the witnesses hang out until they have to testify, because he's looking for the victim, the rape victim. Well, she's not there. She was late, which saved her life. So then the suspect, he leaves the courtroom and he hits the emergency stairs. Now, Sergeant Teasley, he's just now getting to work. Well, he heard the alarm go out and all the trouble going on in 8F, so he's heading that way. Well, now he hadn't even got up to the dressing room to put his vest on, his Kevlar vest. So Sergeant Teasley now, he's chasing the suspect down the stairwells. Now the suspect, he busts out of the doors there of the old courthouse that leads out on the Martin Luther King Drive. Now, of course, when he hits the door and gets it open, it sounds an alarm. Sergeant Teasley's right on top of him. He busts out the doors. Well, the suspect, he turns around and he cranks off rounds at Sergeant Teasley. Sergeant Teasley is hit twice. Now, Judge Barnes and Julie Brando, who was the court reporter, they're dead on the scene. Sergeant Teasley's going to be transported to the hospital, and he dies from internal bleeding. One of the two gunshots had got him in the stomach. About 9:05 a.m. or so, the suspect runs into an underground parking garage across from the courthouse, and he carjacks a 2002 Mazda Tribute. Now, a fellow that works at the Fulton County Juvenile Court, he saw the carjacking, so he's following the suspect. He follows him over there on to Peachtree Street, and then he sees the suspect driving to a parking garage there near Underground Atlanta. The entrance and the exit are right there beside each other. So he takes his car and he blocks the entrance and exit with his car. Well, he sees Atlanta police officers and he flags them down and he tells them. So they go up into the parking deck. Well, now, according to this witness, as soon as those officers ran into the parking garage, suspect came out another exit, walked down the street, and he carjacks a tow truck driver and takes his tow truck. Now, that's at the corner of Peachtree and Wall Street. So he goes north up Peachtree and he hangs a left on Walton, goes the wrong way on a one-way, and he stops at the Imperial parking garage on Cone Street. Now, right around 9:14 a.m., he carjacks a 2004 Mercury Sable. So the suspect, he heads north on Spring Street. Now, just a couple minutes later, he drives into a parking lot there at 250 Spring Street, and he carjacks a 1997 Isuzu Trooper. Now the suspect, he heads over towards the Centennial Tower. There's a parking deck there across from the CNN Center, and it's a news reporter. So he takes the victim's 1987 Honda Accord. Now, it's just a few minutes later, after all this has transpired, they find the Honda Accord. Now, what's hurting them in this particular area where the police are converging to, the NCAA basketball tournament, the Southeastern Conference tournament to be exact, was taking place at the Georgia Dome. So they got thousands of people down there heading to the games. Now, police later on would recover security footage of the suspect in a stairwell in the parking deck. Later on, they were able to piece together that the suspect had went on foot through Centennial parking garage to the 5 Points MARTA station, which confirmed their suspicion. That train station's a block away from that parking garage. Now, they would later find a witness, and she said, "Yeah, I was the only one on that particular train car." She said she saw the suspect. He was wearing a jacket. That was about it, other than his dress slacks. He didn't have a shirt on. Said the fellow was sweating profusely. Now, she didn't know anything about this suspect or what had gone on because she hadn't seen any news coverage. But now the police pulled the footage from the train station there, and sure enough, 9:57 a.m., there's a suspect walking through the station. So now the suspect disappears for some hours. They're trying to figure out where he's at. And they know he's went north on that train. About 10:40 that night, suspect takes a woman hostage in the parking lot of her apartments there at the Heights at Lenox. I think at the time they might have been known as the Summit at Lenox, but either event, 3200 Lenox Road, this woman is jumped in the parking lot. Well, now he takes her to her apartment. Now, when she gets to the apartment, opens the door, well, her boyfriend's there. So the boyfriend pulls his girlfriend in the apartment, and he jumps the suspect. So now they're out there fighting in the breezeway. And the whole time they're fighting, the girlfriend, thank goodness she's got on her phone. She's dialed 911 and she's screaming for help. Now, of course, the suspect hears the female on her phone calling the police. The suspect knows he's going to have to get out of here. So he pistol whips the boyfriend and he takes off running. All right, it's the next day, Saturday, March 12th. There's some contractors, some carpenters. They're heading over to a house at 962 Canner Road. Now that Canner Road address, that's not more than a couple blocks from the apartments. And it's a house it's being built. It's not quite finished. They're working on it. Well, they get there, and when they get into the house, they find the ASAC, Agent Wilhelm. They find his body in the back bedroom. He'd been shot one time in the stomach. So evidently this suspect had left the apartments. He picked this house out at random. I guess because it was still being built. Maybe he thought it was abandoned. He could hide in there or something. Now later on, authorities would piece together that the ASAC, Wilhelm, he might have lived, except that the suspect found out that the ASAC was the police. So he shot him. And they know that Agent Wilhelm had been robbed as well because pockets were turned inside out. There was loose change scattered on the floor. One shell casing found next to the body. Now, Agent Wilhelm, his wallet with his badge, his gun was gone, and he had a blue Chevrolet pickup, and it was gone. Now at 2 a.m. on March the 12th, so we know that Agent Wilhelm had died sometime earlier in the night. The suspect, he jumps a woman there in the parking lot of the Bridgewater Apartments. And he forces her to her apartment. Now she's able to start conversations with the suspect talking about her 5-year-old daughter and that she's supposed to go visit her daughter that day. And then she asked him if she can go visit her daughter, and he says yes. So she leaves the apartment, and as soon as she does, she gets on the phone. About 9:50 a.m., Gwinnett County Communications gets a 911 call, and it's this victim. And she says that escapees, he's at my apartment, Bridgewater Apartments there in Duluth, Georgia. So as you might guess, everybody with a badge and a gun heads to that address. So they get the apartment surrounded, and the suspect decides he's just going to surrender. So he comes out holding a white towel, and he gives up. About 26 hours after all this had started. Now they recovered 3 stolen firearms that he'd taken from law enforcement. They found Agent Wilhelm's wallet. His truck was found 2 miles away. Now, May 5th, 2005, Fulton County Grand Jury, they indict the suspect on 54 counts of various crimes, including 4 counts of felony murder. Now, they originally were seeking the death penalty, and that was taken off the table. So, December 2008, the suspect is sentenced to 4 consecutive life terms. Sergeant Hoyt Keith Teasley. Assistant SAC David Gray Wilhelm. End of watch, March 11th, 2005.